All right. 3 ways to enhance your Aikido training so that you can prepare yourself for potential physical confrontation. Now, now I know what some of you guys are going to say. Hi, I'm Dave Meglano with Tatsu Dojo. So, I know what some people are probably thinking, some people who saw the title of this video. Yeah, what you need to do is go do another martial art because Aikido sucks. Well, there are reasons why any martial art may or may not work. And so all I want to do is give 3 examples of things that you can do to enhance your physical performance if you're thinking about using your martial art for self-defense, if that's one of the reasons you do it. So, and I'm using Aikido specifically because Aikido gets a bad rap, and I do understand why. So I just want to throw that out there. I understand why Aikido has a bad reputation. I'm not going to argue with any of that. So I think the most important thing to have if you want to be able to use Aikido or any martial art in a real situation is mindset. The mindset that you train with. So for me, I had the opportunity to be taught by men who were either active duty military or prior military while I was in Japan. And so our Aikido training was very different than it was when I came back to the States, when I went to a different dojo. Because the training was very linear. It was very abrupt. There was not a lot of spinning, twirling moves like you often see sometimes Aikido being depicted. It was very blunt and to the point, just like some of the karate that I had studied, because it was meant to end a confrontation, not prolong a confrontation. So that mindset, that military mindset of, I'm going to use this, and I'm going to use this for real, that when you train under that kind of mentality, it's going to affect your technique. And so the mindset that you have is very important for Aikido. So secondary to mindset is your physical ability to do the art, whatever art that is. But we're talking about Aikido, right? So there's kind of been this thing where Aikido is touted as being the art for a smaller person. Like I cringe when I hear people say, Aikido is a perfect art for women, because they're smaller. And the fact of the matter is, actual physics doesn't support that. Mass is a force multiplier. It just is. So the more muscular mass you have, not necessarily visceral mass, but muscular mass, the more muscular mass you have, the more potential you have to explode into different positions. And that's what confrontation is all about. It's about the ability to explode, to get off the line or get back on the line, right? Especially in martial arts like Aikido. So what are you doing off the mat? How well are you taking care of your body off the mat? What are you doing to enhance your martial skills? So here at our dojo, I preach all the time to all of our students, you have to do some kind of strength training. Whether you're in karate or Aikido, you have to do some kind of strength training because mass is a force multiplier. It doesn't have to be lifting weights necessarily. I'm a big proponent of weight training, but it doesn't have to be weight training. It can be a mixture of those things. You also need to include some kind of explosion training, so that you can get on and off the line quickly, so that you can move faster. Some kind of lower body explosion training, whether it's sprinting or box jumps or a combination of those things. Those types of skills will only enhance your ability to do Aikido, or really any martial art. But, we're talking about Aikido. You need to do some kind of explosion training. So operating under this idea that you can be a really small person and just fling people around, it's nice. It's kind of a romantic idea, but it's not reality. And the last thing I'm going to say is probably the most controversial, and it's going to sound very hypocritical, but in order to enhance your Aikido ability, you have to train in other arts. So give you an example. So the best Aikido people that I studied under, and they were, I consider them that these were scary dudes. Like, I would not want to fight any of these guys, but they came from other arts. Okay, and the big three that I noticed while I was there in Japan were karate, judo, and kendo. And I think the reason is because if you come from a, a, a fighting style, if you will, where you're used to getting hit and you're used to hitting other people, and you're used to getting thrown hard and you're used to getting pinned hard and all those things, you have an expectation of how, oh, this is the way this is supposed to go. So then you go to study Aikido, and it's very complex at the beginning, but you do it long enough and it begins to make sense. And then you can apply that other knowledge that you have from other arts to your Aikido training, and then it makes a lot more sense physically to you so that you can actually like make it work. So I've known Aikido people throughout throughout the last 30 some years who only do Aikido and they don't do anything else, and they operate with these blinders on, right? And they don't step outside of that at all. And frankly, I feel that's one of the reasons why Aikido has lost a lot of its legitimacy, because people are trying to maintain the art, which, I mean, I think is kind of an excuse for, I don't want to make myself uncomfortable. I don't want to do things that, that I can't do. So I have my whatever rank in Aikido, and I'm only going to stick with that, and that's all I'm going to do, because I don't want to feel like I don't want to feel like this stuff doesn't work. And that's why it doesn't work. So it's no different. So yes, Aikido can work, but you have to have the right mindset that drives your physicality and that drives your willingness to step outside of your comfort zone and do other things to enhance your Aikido training. So, hey, I hope this was entertaining and beneficial. Thanks a lot.